So this is we are going to talk about now. So far, we have seen very nice videos about how to do it very properly. Now we are going to see whenever we fumble, what we can do and what problems we can expect. One should understand when we are graduating from DSEC to DMAC, the whole procedure is entirely different, the DMAC procedure. So we cannot, whatever we learned in DSEC is not going to help much in facing these problems in DMAC. So entirely new set of problems you may face, and we have to be prepared for that. So starting from the donor preparation, this is just for a demonstration how an aged donor tissue will behave. It's so brittle, like a piece of paper or a plastic when you are trying to manipulate it. So it can happen in that way, but still, like, you can, if you are getting about 70 to 80% of the tissue what you planned, you can still go ahead and use it. And this is the surgical video. Probably an older video because the method looks a little different. And here the tissue looks quite pliable, but still when the surgeon is trying to pull it, you can see there's some kind of a tear occurs in near that area, that 9 o'clock area. And when the surgeon put it in the Petri dish, you can appreciate it well. But still this tissue is can be usable. It's not that we have to throw it off or anything. We can still go ahead and use it. So coming to the recipient preparation, as already told many times, DMAC is a little less forgiving than DSEC. There's no tags in between. The interface is, they can cause a lot of problem if you leave behind a tag. So you can appreciate it well with when we do it with air, the desmotorexis, or even if you do it with visco, as Dr. Rajesh put it, you can again inject, wash it off and inject air and see and look for such tags and then remove them properly before going for injection. And poor visualization also can be a problem, especially in our kind of eyes like dark iris. Prolonged manipulation may lead on to loss of strain also, so we have to strain it properly. And in case of cloudy cornea, what we can debride the epithelium, and also sometimes we can apply glycerin so that we can make it more compact and make the view better before going in for further intraoperative procedures. And intraoperative lighting also we can try. And coming to the donor insertion, this is a very crucial step. Usually it's better to deflate the chamber a little bit, or if you are using anterior chamber maintainer, as Rajesh put it, stop the flow. But what will happen if you keep it in that way? That's it. Like the tissue just got washed out. But luckily, the surgeon could retrieve it. And this is the first post-op day picture. And they went ahead and used it. But every time we may not be very lucky like that. And this video you have to see very carefully. You can see roughly like a kind of faint triangular tissue there that is not, I think, properly, the stain is not that much, and the surgeon tried to open it. That's it. We don't know where it has gone. So it's like, that's why I'm playing it again and again. It's just gone. So this kind of problem can occur. It can go behind the iris also. So later they went ahead and used another tissue, and next day they could find the tissue just peeping out of the pupil, it seems, and then they removed and discarded it. So this kind of problem also can occur. Coming to unscrolling, as already Dr. Rajesh pointed out, a tight scroll can be maybe difficult to manage, and then you can insert the cannula and give small bursts of fluid, and then open it. And if you are very sure about the orientation, you can also even use the same cannula to open it a little bit manually also. May not be a good idea. Then when a large graft can lead on to this kind of origami kind of thing, then you have to orient it properly and make it a single fold and then go for opening it. And then the sticky tissue, already they mentioned, if there is fibrin, that can lead on to problem. So it's better to wait for complete good hemostasis. And already, as pointed out by Dr. Elmer and Dr. Basser, leave a large air tamponade while you are preparing your tissue, that can lead on to less amount of fibrate. And upside down donor tissue is another problem. And already, as mentioned by Dr. Fogla, this sign, if you see, then you can be a little bit more sure about your orientation. But still, this video, you can see the orientation looks correct only and injected. Then I could see that it is, the S is upside down. So before manipulation, I put a suture. Then again, we have to tumble it inside the anterior chamber. This is an edited video. It looks very simple, but with a lot of manipulation only, I could gently tumble it, and then I made sure that the orientation is correct. Then I opened it up. So I think I shared this video last time also. We think like, okay, everything went on well. Now we are relaxed, and then I started injecting the air, and then the air, I don't know where the air has gone. Then that's because of that ugly large PI what I made. So that we have to keep in mind, and it's better to go for a very small PI, or sometimes even you can do without PI also if you are quite experienced, and you can do in that way also. So coming to the pupillary block glaucoma, because if you leave behind excessive large air bubble in the anterior chamber for the whole night or something, or if it migrates behind the iris, you can have the problem. And then of course, sometimes you have to immediately release it also. Coming to the donor dislocation, this also can occur, as Rajesh put it. A case of first, before manipulating it, first make sure with an ASOCT if possible whether your orientation is correct. Then you can go ahead and rebubble it, and usually expect it in the first week. It's very crucial. If you start seeing a small in between, better to do sequential ASOCT. Especially if you see a small flap like this detachment, then closely follow them up. Gradually, they will go for a larger detachment. Then it's better to go and rebubble. And you can get small bullae in the periphery, especially if your graft size is small. Then the patient, still the symptoms may persist for the patient, though the vision is better. Primary graft failure can occur even in, especially in DMEC, of course, in the beginning because of excessive handling, and especially if the anterior segment is already compromised due to the primary disease, this is more possible. Graft rejection also can occur, though the incidence is very, very low, 2.8% comparatively with 5-year follow-up, but still it can happen. But the signs may not be very obvious. We have to be very carefully look for this KPs, and then we have to go in for, we have to treat it as the regular graft rejection. So in conclusion, DMEC is a very gratifying surgery, very elegant surgery. Once you start doing it, you will feel very happy. But this is relatively technically very different from whatever we have done before. So we have to understand this, watch a lot of videos, attend to the master's lectures and their small tips, whatever they are giving. And also you can train yourself with the iBank eyes or with the artificial chambers, and then you can go for doing it. And during the still the learning can be little steeper only. Always keep in touch with your masters and get small clues to go ahead and do the procedure properly. Thank you.